Alright, so The Boys Season 5 Episode 3 is now streaming on Prime Video, and in this episode we're going to do the episode review, we're going to do the recap, and we're going to break down all of the important events that took place, and at the end I'm going to rate this episode and let you know what I score it. So with that being said, let's get right into this review because this episode was extremely dense. There's a lot to talk about here. So first things first, this episode is titled Every One of You Sons of Bitches, and we open up in Russia with Ryan. Okay, we haven't seen this character in quite some time, so it's nice to see him return back to the series. He's been hiding out in Russia, hiding from Homelander, trying to avoid the consequences of his life and of killing like his caretaker, right? And we see this task force, this agency, I guess fought agents going after him, and he obliterates all of them. Okay, he murders all of them. We can tell that the Homelanderness is starting to come out of Ryan, and we see those laser eyes light up and just beam right through a guy's skull. And it is in this moment, it is in this intro that I thought, okay, this is definitely Homelander's son through and through, and you can see the psychotic nature beginning to come out of him. Now we move over into Soldier Boy being instilled back into the 7. He's back on the main team, he's back in the spotlight, and you can tell in this scene that Homelander is jealous over all the press that he's getting. All of the attention is off Homelander, it's back on Soldier Boy, and he hates it. He despises it because this guy's an egomaniac. Of course, he's a psychopath, just like his son Ryan. And so in this scene, he announces to the reporters, oh, by the way, Soldier Boy is my dad. Okay, and a fantastic scene. I found this scene hilarious. You can tell in this moment how upset Soldier Boy was over this announcement, but it is the truth, so it's not like he can just deny it or say anything. He just is forced to go along with it, and he's frustrated by it, and then suddenly all the attention is back on Homelander, which is just where he likes it. Now let's move over into the scene between Soldier Boy and Homelander that took place right after this, where Soldier Boy is essentially telling him that he doesn't trust Homelander, he doesn't like him because he sent him after this virus without telling him about the virus, and he's pretty much gloating to Homelander that he is going to end up dying and aging out before him, while Soldier Boy will live forever and eventually take over Vought and replace Homelander. Now, why is this important and how is this even possible, right? Because we left off with the cliffhanger in the last episode where we thought Soldier Boy just died to the virus, and then we see him sit up and then the screen cuts to black, and that's that episode. That's the finale of episode 2. Now in episode 3, he's back alive. How is this possible? Well, it's because of V1. Now, what is V1? It's the first compound of V, and the reason that's important is because it is a much stronger dose than what they are using on Supes later on inside of this series. So because of that, Soldier Boy is extremely potent. Okay, he doesn't age. None of the Supes from that era and timeline age, right? And so Soldier Boy is no different. He is essentially unkillable, and he's just gloating at Homelander over him being unkillable, which I thought was interesting. It's clearly going to drive some sort of wedge between these two characters. But then we move over into another important scene where Stan Edgar is meeting the boys, of course without Billy Butcher there, because Stan Edgar is looking over Victoria Newman's daughter, who is present inside of this scene. Her name is Zoe. She plays an important role inside of this episode. And it is in this scene that we discover that Translucent's son is a person, okay? A person that we didn't know exist. His name is Maverick. He plays an important role throughout this episode too, and he's sort of been hiding in the Stan Edgar's hideout. And so we get these awkward scenes between Huey and Maverick, because if you remember, all the way back to season 1 of The Boys, he is responsible for killing Translucent, Maverick's father. Now that brings us into one of the most insane scenes in this entire episode and in the show in general, which is Homelander having this psychotic break over his feelings of worthlessness and everyone telling him he's worthless and that he's pretty much an empty suit, right? Like we've seen A-Train call him an empty suit. He's nothing inside. And so he's just having this psychotic break. He's going insane, and boom, okay, his mind bursts open and we see Homelander having these visions of the heavens. He sees Madeline come down out of the clouds of heaven and is essentially talking to him. Now, this was his mother figure. If you've been watching The Boys for this long, you know who this character is. She was the one at Vought that would baby him, that would watch over him, that would mother him. He also had some sort of weird sexual relationship with her. It was very strange back then during those seasons, okay? Now, this vision of Madeline ends up telling him that he needs to become God. Pretty much, he tells Homelander, you need to become Jesus, you need to take the place of God. And so in these delusions of grandeur, he ends up believing that he truly is God and that he is going to be immortal. He is going to live forever. Now we move over into Ryan and Zoe pretty much having a relationship, which we get to discover throughout this scene, and how they plan on killing Homelander, things like that. And we see Billy Butcher hiding in a nearby area. Okay, he comes out once Zoe leaves to have a one-on-one with Ryan. It's been a lot of episodes since they've seen each other, and Billy Butcher was kind of acting as a true father figure for Ryan, at least at one point in time. Now, we'll talk more about what these characters have to say later, because we don't get that scene until later. But what happens next? Okay, the scene that follows this, we see Homelander after his psychotic break. He is having a bath in breast milk. Okay, there's no easy way to say it. He's truly insane. He's truly lost it this time. Okay, we see him stand up, no clothes on at all, just talking to Soldier Boy. Okay, this guy has no shame anymore. He truly is having delusions of grandeur to the point where he thinks he is God. And it is in this scene that Homelander tries to take his confidence back. You know, he's sort of moving with a new level of confidence for the remainder of this episode that we haven't seen in Homelander for damn near the entire series. And he's pretty much telling Soldier Boy how, no, Soldier Boy, you're the disappointment. You're the one constantly doing drugs, constantly doing this and that, things you shouldn't be doing, things that heroes wouldn't be doing, things that I don't do, okay, from Homelander's perspective. And then we move over into a scene where we see Huey trying to have this heart-to-heart with Maverick, trying to guide him in the right direction for one reason or another, right? He feels bad about the fact that he left this kid an orphan pretty much. And Maverick is telling Huey in this scene that he wants to help with killing Homelander. Huey's trying to tell him, no, just go live your life, forget about all of that type of stuff, trying to guide him in the right direction, even though he is probably the last person that should be trying to do that, considering what Huey did in season 1. Now, to jump back into Butcher and Ryan having their conversation, because that's where this scene takes place. Okay, they're in a bar. He's having a drink with Ryan. He's starting to just talk to him like he's a man and not like he's this little boy that he's trying to protect anymore, because at this point Ryan's been murdering people left and right. He's not just some little kid anymore. Okay, so Butcher's having a one-on-one with him, a heart-to-heart, and he's pretty much telling him, I need you to kill yourself with the virus in order to get that virus to your father Homelander and take him out. Yes, you're going to be a sacrifice, but I'm not going to treat you like a kid anymore. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. You are going to die in this scenario, but you'd be saving the world as a result of doing this. So it sort of leaves Ryan in a weird place where he has to decide whether or not he plans on sacrificing himself. And in this moment, he is sort of going along with it, okay? He seems like he realizes what he has to do. And that brings us over into another scene, which I thought this scene was hilarious too. Okay, we pick back up with the Deep and Black Noir. They're riding around in the cyber truck. Of course, the Deep owns a cyber truck. That is just who he is in his nature. That is the main character that I expect to be driving a cyber truck. So I thought that was hilarious, and I just wanted to mention it a little. Now we move over into Kimiko and Frenchie talking it out, having a heart-to-heart again. We got to see this at the end of the last episode also, where they wanted to run off with each other. Kimiko says that's not the right thing to do, and so we end up seeing that not happen here. But she does tell Frenchie that in the future she wants to eventually have kids, and this becomes a sort of back and forth between them because Frenchie says that he doesn't want to have children, so that sort of drives a wedge in their relationship, and they're sort of having an awkward moment there. And then we move back over into Butcher and Ryan, and this is where we bring back up a plotline that was sort of left open-ended within the last couple episodes, that being, did Butcher kill his father, yes or no? We never got a conclusion there. We see him go visit him. He tells him he wants to kill him. He gives him a hug, squeezes him a bit, but then the scene cuts to black. But he admits to Ryan in this scene that he did kill his father, so it's officially confirmed right then and there. And then with that being said, Ryan is a little more receptive to the fact that he's going to have to kill his own father, Homelander, and he pretty much agrees to do this and to go along with this plan. Now we move back over into Stan Edgar's hideout. Okay, Vought has found their location. They're trying their best to get into this underground base. They're thinking it'll hold because this place was reinforced for that purpose, but they're not really sure about it just yet. And then that jumps us over back into Kimiko and Frenchie. Okay, they're at this lab. Zoe goes and visits this lab. This is the lab where the virus has been created. This is pretty much Billy Butcher's hideout. And then we discover that Zoe's dad is actually the lab assistant, or the main scientist that's been working on the virus for Butcher. And so we get a nice sweet scene of them coming back together, embracing each other, and Kimiko and Frenchie pretty much let him go, but not before Frenchie, of course, threatens to kill him. Kimiko says it's not the right thing to do, so we let him go. That was a nice sweet scene inside of the show. Of course, Billy Butcher is upset about this once he comes back to the lab and discovers it. It looked like in this scene he was about to kill Kimiko actually, but Frenchie stops him. He says, listen, I'm not going to create this virus for you, because Frenchie is sort of a scientist in his own realm, and that gets Butcher to back off, at least at the very moment. Now we move over into MM and Stan Edgar having a moment where they're kind of just talking about everything that's transpired and how insane it is that they're in this very moment together, working together at this particular point in time. And that is when Stan Edgar pretty much hints towards MM that he wants to run VOD again one day, and MM says, hey, if that day ever comes, I'm gonna have to put a bullet in your head. And after that is when we get a very weird scene between Firecracker and Soldier Boy, where Soldier Boy is on this show that she's hosting, Truth Bomb is I guess what it's called, and they're talking about guns and how, you know, his classic American gun is better than her modern day foreigner gun. And after this scene, these characters end up hooking up. Soldier Boy admits that he only did it because he thought Homelander and Firecracker had something going, even though they don't, which she reveals to him in this scene. So I guess we had to have Firecracker do something inside of this show, and that is what they have her character end up doing for pretty much this entire episode. Now, after Butcher got back to the lab and brought Ryan, he pretty much discovered that this virus is not going to be able to be created because his main scientist went and ran off. It's going to take about a week to a month to get the virus ready so that they can actually kill Homelander. Ryan is very upset about this. He says, I thought we were going to do this here and now. You know, he's ready to sacrifice himself in this very moment. Butcher tells him, listen, kid, don't be an idiot. Okay, without the virus ready, you're just going to go attack Homelander and be another person who tries to do a worthless sacrifice play and ends up getting himself killed. So do not go and do that. Does Ryan listen to this? Of course he doesn't. And we'll talk about that scene in just a bit, but not before we talk about how Maverick is sent to help with the entire situation that's taking place, Vought surrounding the underground lab that they're trapped in. So because he has the same powers as Translucent, they send him out there to deal with the problem. Okay, he goes up through this secret hatch because Black Noir is patrolling this hatch, but you can't see an invisible man. They give him a weapon to take out the people that are there so that everyone trapped in this facility can eventually escape. Now, does this go to plan? Of course it doesn't, because Maverick is just some young dumb kid who smells like Vought body spray, so they end up smelling him coming from a mile away. Okay, the Deep is holding him. Maverick's like, I can't believe y'all killed my father, right? I can't believe Homelander helped kill my father. And the Deep ends up revealing the truth to Maverick in this particular scene. So he ends up telling him, like, bro, we didn't kill your dad, okay? It was actually Huey Campbell and the boys that killed your dad, okay? The people you've been hanging out with in this underground lab that have been trying to have a heart-to-heart with you, they're the ones that killed your father. Homelander had nothing to do with it. And it is in this moment that Maverick pretty much turns to the dark side, if you want to call it that, considering they did murder his father, right? So he's kind of justified in this action, but at the same time, that's tough. Now, he ends up revealing the underground hatch. He sends the soups down there to get everyone hiding out in Stan Edgar's lab. And this is where we see the sliminess of Stan Edgar come into play, right? He's running off with everyone, MM, Huey, Starlight, Stan Edgar. They're all trying to get to this secret underground base that he has in the underground base, right? Like this safety room, essentially. But as soon as Stan Edgar gets into this room, he drops the door. He says, bye-bye, you know, y'all fend for yourself. I'm out of here. And come to find out, someone is already inside his safety room. So he immediately gets captured. Huey has a nice one-liner where he's like, damn, instant karma, right? So after Black Noir captures Stan Edgar, he brings him up to the Cybertruck. Okay, he puts him in the back of the Cybertruck. And then we see a scene where this is very interesting from the Deep, because the Deep betrays Black Noir. He throws like the gas canister in the Cybertruck, closes the door. Black Noir gets knocked out by it. Stan Edgar gets knocked out by it. He drags Black Noir out of the Cybertruck, gets in, and drives off to go deliver Stan Edgar to Homelander so he can get some favor points with his boss. Now, we have Starlight fighting off one of the soups. We have Huey fighting off Maverick, because after Maverick discover that he is the one who killed his father, he's like, bro, is that why you're trying to give me all this advice? Like, do you know how sick in the head you have to be to try that after you killed his dad? And again, he absolutely has a point here, and we can't really judge Maverick for the decision making in this scenario. So we get Huey versus Maverick, and then we see the head popper, or are we even going to call him head popper? Okay, because we've seen that he pretty much has the same powers as Victoria Newman, but it's their entire body and not just their head. So instead of head popper, we'll save that for Victoria Newman. I'll just call him the body popper. Okay, so the body popper comes in, he tries to kill Huey, he ends up blowing up Maverick instead. Starlight takes them out, and she is absolutely freaked out. She thinks that Huey just got obliterated by this soup with this power, and she turns around to discover Huey Campbell is still alive. Luckily for Starlight. Now, we'll talk about how this scene impacts her later on, because it does leave her feeling some type of way, but it truly made her value Huey a lot more in this scene. Now, we now come to my favorite scene in the entire episode, the one I've been wanting to talk about this entire time, and that is Ryan finally meeting up with Homelander once again. He doesn't take Butcher's advice. He goes and seeks out Homelander, and he finds him, and he wants to ask him the question, did you SA his mother, right? Did you sexually assault his mother? Did this really take place? Did this happen? Homelander is gaslighting him. He's lying. He's going, no, look, she came on to me, bro. Okay, I didn't do anything. All right, it was a consensual relationship, lying through his teeth as Homelander does. And Ryan absolutely loses his shit, as he should in a moment like this. So we get Ryan versus Homelander, and Ryan's trying his hardest to fight Homelander, and he ends up realizing in this scene he can't really do any real damage to Homelander. Okay, this is your father, boy. You can't do real damage to him. And Homelander begins beating the living shit out of his son. I loved this scene, him teaching Ryan his place and just laying the beating on Ryan. Okay, and as he has Ryan laying on the ground, he's like, my sweet boy, okay, I'm gonna put you out of your misery, don't worry. And he is just unloading on him, beating him to a bloody pulp. It was an insane moment here. And yeah, Ryan should have listened to Butcher. Butcher knows what he's talking about. You shouldn't have gone after Homelander without the virus. And because of that, Ryan is damn near left in critical condition after this beating from Homelander. And yeah, that was easily the best scene in this entire episode, which it's been an amazing episode so far. But we do have a little bit more to talk about. Okay, we see Starlight take off. Okay, she tells Huey, listen, seeing you almost die right there, I can't really take this. It's a lot easier to fight this fight when I don't have anyone to actually worry and care about. So she takes off without Huey. And then we see the Deep bring Stan Edgar over to Homelander. Of course, they used to have a relationship in the past. Stan Edgar's belittled Homelander constantly throughout the earlier seasons of this series. And so Homelander couldn't be more happy to see the Deep deliver Stan Edgar to him. He ends up like embracing him, giving him like this psychotic hug. So I guess we'll see what takes place between these two characters in the next episode. And then for our very final scene inside of episode 3, we see Butcher finding Ryan in the state that he's in, just beaten to a bloody pulp. And that's where the episode cuts to black right there, okay? So I thought it was an extremely good episode. They've been doing such an amazing job with this season, with this entire series up to this point, but with this season in particular, they are knocking it out of the park over and over and over, and truly giving the payoff that we need for the viewers that have been watching since season 1, and giving the audience what they want to see. So with all that being said, if I had to rate episode 3 of season 5 of The Boys, I would give this episode a 10 out of 10. It gets the 10 out of 10. That is 3 10 out of 10 episodes in a row. They are knocking it out of the park this season. I hope they continue with this momentum. They're doing such a great job. Can't wait to see how this season concludes. And yeah, I'm extremely excited to watch episode 4. I can't wait to see what Homelander ends up doing with Stan Edgar. And they're just doing a fantastic job so far. As I've been saying at the end of like the last 2 episode reviews for The Boys, I couldn't commend these writers more. They are truly brilliant. Okay, this is brilliance on display. This is real cinema on the small screen, and I love every second of it. Now, those are my thoughts on this episode, guys. I love to know your thoughts on this episode down in the comment section down below. If you don't know what we do here on Demigod ET, we do film, TV, and pop culture based content. So if you're interested in this type of content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.